I did a search for and found my biological mother. She reached out to my biological father. He had denied it at conception. He denied it when 25 years later. I still found a way to tell another story. Yeah, you were chosen. However, you were given up. You were rejected. You were abandoned. The best is yet to come. It was just be patient, keep doing the work, and trust the process. And my golly, it worked. 2025 was explosive, and we are experiencing now, 20 plus years in, hockey stick growth. Listen, I didn't go to college. We never took a draw from the business until 2011. I had religion wrong. Peace, love, and gigs, finding your gig, finding the thing that you were meant to do that no one else can do in life, the reason that you were put on this earth. And I am absolutely no happier than I was when I had nothing.
The world is full of incredible people. You just got to get out there and have the conversation.
Buckle up. This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB.
Mark, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Jason.
Dumb question in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. How do I pronounce your last names? Because I am notoriously bad at last names. Every guest I have on, I never get the last name correct. So how would I say your last name?
Steiner.
Well, that's easy. I should have known that. What origin is that from?
Some, who knows, but I'll answer anything.
You haven't done the 23andMe?
How do you know about that?
You've done it, 23andMe?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's done it. Did it come out to anything strange pop out for you?
Well, I've done both 23andMe and I've also done Ancestry.
Okay.
And what's interesting in my part is I'm adopted. So
Wow.
I did a search for and found my biological mother. And this was when I was 25 years old. I'm 60 now. Right after I got married, I did a search. As searches go, they went very easily. I found my mother. She reached out to my biological father. He had denied it at conception. He denied it when 25 years later. So I had no connection to my paternal side of the family. From Ancestry, I had somebody reach out to me and said, "Hey, it shows that we are cousins. Do I know you?" And I said, "Well, I'm adopted, and so I don't think so." And so it's been a real blessing for me to have those platforms out there because I got some connection to my biological paternal past.
I want to make sure that if you like what we're doing, I mean, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You wouldn't believe that most of you, and I see it because you'll comment and you don't even realize that you haven't subscribed to the show. It is a free way to support what we're doing and the content we're putting out. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button right now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually amazing. I don't know that I saw that in any of your bio or LinkedIn, and that is really fascinating. So were the genealogy with 23andMe and Ancestry, was it the same? I've done one of them. I think it was 23andMe. And I was looking for, I'd been told I had this like Native American Indian background, and none of it showed up. None of it. So I've heard indigenous people don't necessarily do a lot of 23andMe because they just know their heritage. So I don't know if there's enough DNA in it. But yeah, so I found a lot more, European, British, Germanic, kind of areas. I had a little Portuguese as well, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, but it was strange. Of course, I'm a mutt here, but that's really fascinating. And I'm sorry that your biological father, I mean, even after all these years, he's having this hard time just owning up to, at this point, DNA.
Isn't it something? Yeah, it really is a fascinating topic because there's so much secrecy. There's so much, often with adoption, there's denial, shame, there's embarrassment, there's, and mine turned out to be a really amazing story that I love talking about. Um, and yeah, I feel like he's missed out on an opportunity. I know enough about him, that my mother shared, and his, I come from a very, he is the Italian side of my heritage. My blood is I'm 53% Sicilian, and I'm 47% Irish. Biological mother is Irish, my father is Italian. My adopted parents, so I was born on March 10th, and then on March 30th, I was home with my parents. And my Steiner is German Irish, so that's my father, and my mother is Italian. She's first generation Italian, but from northern Italy. So but I've always been very fascinated by my my DNA, my history, my genealogy. I've identified greatly to in particular, well, to the Italian side. Um, I'm from New Jersey, and I wanted to be an actor, so there was a lot of the Italian, the Robert De Niro, Bobby De Niro and Al Pacino, and the Godfather and the Gambinos and whatever, just that whole culture
Yeah.
has always been very interesting to me.
What part of
Uh,
Jersey were you from?
I was born in Perth Amboy, and then, which is right on the water there, not too far
Okay.
outside the city, and then
On the shores.
that's right, it's on the shore, and then, Willingboro, New Jersey, which is in Burlington County, down in, South Jersey, is kind of a suburb of Philly, and, that was my first, where my father, worked for RCA, and then he got transferred to North Jersey, and that's where I grew up from 3rd grade on. I was in Highbridge, New Jersey, which is in Hunterdon County, about in 55 minutes directly west of New York City,
All right. So
almost
you
Pennsylvania.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no, that's it.
So New Jersey, I love Jersey, by the way. I mean, it's the Garden State, and I've only been there once, but when I went, it was for a wedding, and actually, I'm sorry, twice. It's a beautiful, beautiful state, and it's so green when you get outside of what's the
Newark.
airport you fly? Yeah, Newark. When you get outside Newark, man, it just turns into the most gorgeous state there is. But Newark, get outside of that.
That's it. Yeah, people fly into Newark and they're looking at Edison and the oil refineries, and it's very industrial, and people are thinking, or they go up and down the interstate and they're thinking, what? 95, Garden State? No, just a little bit further. You get into the Pine Barrens, you get to the shore, but where I grew up, very bucolic, uh, you know, a lot of farming communities in and around where I grew up. Beautiful. Yeah, I love New Jersey. I can't say enough about my home state. I haven't lived there for a long time. I left New Jersey when I was almost 18, just out of high school, moved to New York City, and lived there for 10 years, and Connecticut 10 years. And I've been in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, for the past 22 years, which is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. And it's beautiful here too, but I miss the Northeast.
Yeah, yeah, you get a lot of seasons. I guess you get some seasonality in Missouri. We have no seasonality in the Panhandle. It is hot and then like slightly cooler. And
Yes.
so we don't. I mean, we get it more. I guess maybe you could consider it a fall. I mean, it's not really a winter. So I guess there's a fall we do get, and then it just kind of skips winter and then comes right on back up. So we're not south of Orlando. So I'm in the Panhandle of Florida. And real quick before we move any further, I should actually introduce you a little bit more properly. I know my viewers are used to me introducing folks, and I just got into that DNA, and I think I was my mind was all over the place. And when we started, because of some technical difficulties, I'm trying to do more remote pods, and so I'm trying to get this dialed in for everyone, audience. So hang with me. But yeah, so Mark Steiner, you are the CEO of GigSalad. So you've had a lifetime in entertainment. It sounds like, just hearing from your your genealogy story, but I kind of want to dive into that because you really, out of this love of entertainment, then you kind of found a way for entertainers to make a living, or at least a better side gig than what they were doing before. Is this what I'm correct? Is this what
Yeah,
I'm hearing with GigSalad?
that's absolutely right. You're hired. You could be our mark. Yeah, yeah. As I said, I grew up in New Jersey, and I'll give you the really brief nickel tour. I wanted to be, I immediately just was drawn to the arts, performing arts. I wanted to be an actor. I loved film. I loved television. I loved music. And so I dreamt of becoming a rock star or a movie star someday. And I pursued that to some degree. I moved to New York. I got a lucky break working in the movie business, and I did a lot of production, and ended up finding my way to running a craft service company. Craft service is the person who feeds the cast and crew on movie sets.
Wow.
And then I got a part, and I bounced back and forth doing some acting and work running my craft service company. And then I left the business when I moved out of the city. It was and that was just a transition time. Was entrepreneurial, and I was playing around with some other. I designed a stuffed teddy bear. It's a long story, but I very shortly thereafter I became a booking agent, and I worked for a small boutique agency in New York City for 7 years, booking big bands. So Glenn Miller Orchestra, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, these ghost bands that are still around today. I made a great living booking bands, and then I started my own agency, and that morphed into including a speakers bureau, and I was booking talent, and uh, that became GigSalad, which in GigSalad is simply put an event marketplace, which is if you think about Airbnb or you think about Uber, have a you have a car, a driver, you have a person with a need for a ride. They're a connector of those two parties. That platform is Airbnb, person with a house or a condo, person looking for accommodations, connector. That's what we do. We have, as an event marketplace, we have a very large roster, the biggest that exists out there of 115,000 plus members, we call them. So event, those are entertainers, performers, speakers, event service providers. So photographers and all the things that you would need, the people that you need for events is who is listed. And then event planners find our platform. We have very strong SEO. You do a search, you're planning a birthday party, you're planning a wedding, you're planning a corporate event. You don't know how to find the services you're looking for. We come up in that conversation, and you're connected to depending on where the event is and the services that you're looking for. The up will pop the closest in proximity to where you're at, and they book on the platform, and that's
Pay
it.
on pay on the platform and everything, right?
Yeah, the two revenue streams are you can be a paid member. It's a freemium model, so you can have a free listing, but you can also have a paid membership, and we get something on the back end for booking fee.
Right. So when a consumer finds the artist that they're looking for, speaker, DJ, musician, whatever, they pay a fee. And then there's part of that, I assume, goes to the artist, and then part of it goes to you guys as a booking fee. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, very small portion. So if you
Yeah.
very different from having been an agent where it was customary to make 10%,
Right.
or
Right.
for representation. This is small transactional fee as making this platform available, and credit card fees as they are, et cetera. Yeah, but it's
Well, in this world, when you're looking at what I've found too, as a consumer of arts, I'll tell you my story, and this is how I believe Mark Steiner ended up on my page.
Sure, you support my boys here at Floors.com. We're in their studio right now. That's FLOOR. Z.com, baby. Floors.com. They will take care of all your remodeling and new build needs. Floors.com. Check them out. Tell them the Jabroni sent you. So I got to tell you about my friends over at True North Pest Control. True North Pest Control, they take care of all them critters. You got palmetto bugs, they take care of them. You got ants, they got you. You got bugs little flying around, they'll spray for them. They clean out all the cobwebs. They're all over Central Florida, here in the Emerald Coast, and then the whole state of Georgia. Check them out, TrueNorthPestControl.com. They are your pest control superheroes.
Is that, I actually, my daughter, my youngest daughter is graduating high school this year, and she wants to do a party for her friends. And of course, I'll have some of our friends, my wife and I will have some of our friends over as well. And we know a local caterer. So that was pretty simple getting that, a lot of word of mouth and things of that nature. Although I'm sure you guys may have catering services involved in GigSalad too. But we've decided we would like to have some entertainment, and I wasn't certain if she wanted live entertainment or a DJ. So I asked my daughter, and we put it out and started searching. But when you Google DJ and when you Google musicians, you get a lot of different websites. Sometimes some of them have their own, many of them don't. Some of them are on maybe a Reddit review, and I'm reading down. But on the top of the page was GigSalad. And so I clicked on GigSalad and I put in my requirements for the party, how many people would attend, my budget, what I was looking for, the date, all this stuff. And immediately artists started popping up and giving me their quotes. And I went and read their reviews. I saw some of the videos that they had, and then I chose a DJ. So, and by the time this airs, the party will have been over and my daughter will have graduated high school, and it'll have been a great party. I'm certain. I'll put it in the comments. But, yeah, so we booked a DJ through GigSalad, and shortly after booking that, I had a request from your people to come on the show. And I thought that was quite fortuitous.
That is fantastic. That is great.
Yeah.
I love that. I was not told that portion of this, or maybe somebody did mention that
Yeah.
the services were used by somebody. That's wonderful. I love that, Jason. And yes, please keep us posted. We have a very
I'll let you know how they do. I'm sure it'll be great. She decided on a DJ versus a local artist because she wanted variety of songs and whatnot. It was her choice, her party, and that was great. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works out. But yeah, they booked it. They asked what I wanted, or I booked it, and we've had some communication. So I'm certain everything will go off without a hitch. But what an incredible thing to have available. Now, when you start something like that up, there is a lot of lifting that has to happen. So did you have a team that you worked with? How did you start? This is pre-chat GBT, young people. So how did you start something like that from zero?
Yes. Well, what happened was when I went on my own and started my own agency, I reached out to a friend who had gone to school for graphic design at FIT, and he was starting to design websites. This was in the early 2000s. And so he was doing my logo and my artwork and my marketing and advertising. And then he created my website. We launched my website. It was in 2003, Steiner Talent. And I started getting phone calls and emails from artists that were doing searching, looking for representation, looking for gigs, and they were coming across my website. And I was primarily, my business model was, I was a middle broker for national touring acts. I was booking big headliners, celebrities, people that tour the world. And I was booking in performing arts centers and concert series and fairs and festivals and et cetera, corporate events. But there was these local, regional types of artists reaching out to me, like local DJs.
Sure.
having come from an artist background, my wife at the time she's a concert violinist, and so she was doing wedding gigs herself. I have a soft spot for these young struggling artists and starving artists. I always wanted to be helpful, try to just at least give them some advice and direction. No, I'm not looking for that type of act to represent. That's not what I do, etc. I tried to be helpful, right? At the same time, I was getting contacted by local, regional, what I refer to local, regional event planners, moms planning kids' birthday parties, brides, mother of the brides, wedding planners planning their weddings.
Right.
And they're looking for artists. They're starting to search. And, this is 2003, not the infancy of the internet, but in the talent world, I was one of the early adapters to create a website that I'm going to go digital. And so I'm spending a lot of time trying to help people and trying to connect people. My business model was I need to be making about $500. That would be the equivalent of a $5,000 act or higher. So I'm making 10% on a $5,000 act. That's the minimum. I'm dealing often with a face painter or a clown, or they charge $150 or $250 for their services for an hour or whatever. Not a lot of margin there, room for me to put something on top.
Right.
I went to this so it's classic. There's a problem. I'm spending a lot of time helping people and not monetizing it. I have to get back to my core business. What do I do? So I call my friend who designed my website. I'm telling him, hey, I have this idea. We can create a platform. We'll have it just be a basic directory. All these performers and artists and people that are looking for gigs, we'll list them on this platform. Hopefully those event planners find this new website as opposed to Steiner Talent. They can connect, they can do their business, and I'll get back to doing what I'll do, and let's see how this goes. Well, we started conceptualizing it, putting it together, building it, first iteration, the beta stage, on, and it started to take off, and we're working on it all the way up until 2007. We finally in 2006 hired our first real developer, fresh out of in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he changed everything for us, made it what it really has become today. So we consider 2007 our official launch.
Wow. So kind of beta version, trying to figure it out and going live, but 2007 is when you really felt like you got it together.
That's it. And then even further, Jason, I kept doing Steiner Talent. Steve Tatro, my co-founder, he had Tatro Design. So he had his business, I had my business. We're running these out of our homes. We never took a draw from the business until 2011.
Wow.
We just kept building the business, hiring people. Heck, we bought a building when we launched because we really started to explode. And I was working around my kitchen table and I couldn't put any more people around it. So I'm going to have to get out. We bought a building. And in 2011 is when we finally said, hey, I think we're making enough money that we can make our living from this. And in July of that year, I folded Steiner Talent into the Common Interest because it was similar, and we still had an agency that we sort of were running a division. Steve, the next month, shuttered Tatro Design, and we've never looked back. And now we're number one in this little niche event marketplace space.
No, that's an amazing story. What I'm drawing from and what I'm hearing in is when you're building something in today's world, everything is quick. I mean, it's fast food, it's fast frames. We have reels now on social media. So I think I read 2.7 seconds is the attention span of the average American, especially as young people. We want it now. I can remember, the days of the rotary phones when I was little, but now, it's instantaneous. Everything is like instant. And, I know young entrepreneurs sometimes see growth and I don't know if it's FOMO or it's bad information, but it feels like there's sometimes, and it's not everybody, it's not all the time, but sometimes there's this need to hit it big quick. And I think it's a misnomer. I don't know that I've really, I mean, those are the unicorn stories when people hit it big quick, but I feel like that there's this growth. And when I hear your story, you were building brick by brick, moment by moment, client by client, customer by customer, artist by artist, and not taking a salary and starting this in early 2000s, 2007, finally getting it together and still pushing further 4 years later before you finally said, this is what we can do full time. And that's not always the experience in today's economy. I see it growing too fast and people failing because they really grew too fast, too big, too quick. What's your take on that sort of thing? What made you build it that way? So let me reframe this a little bit. What made you build it that way? And did you take on any investors?
Great questions, Jason. First off, we're a bootstrap company. Steve and I didn't know any better. Listen, I didn't go to college, so I didn't know.
By the way.
Well, thank you. I didn't go to college. I didn't consider myself a great student. And I just late in life diagnosis of ADHD clears a lot of this up. But I just knew I wasn't going to be able to sit in another classroom. I'm too easily distracted, and I'm daydreaming. So the point is, we didn't know what we knew. I have a very entrepreneurial spirit about me. I'm going to bet on myself. I believed in myself. That's why I started Steiner Talent, left working for another agency and thought I can do this better or at least different. And I want to do it on my terms. When Steve and I started conceptualizing GigSalad, we just didn't know what we didn't know, how to do this, how to go about this. We're getting into, we're creating a tech company. Neither one of us had that background. And so it had to happen in iterations. It was just sort of, I love to be creative and I love to collaborate with others in my creation. And that's what was going on. So it was fun. It was, it was intriguing. We were learning. So the idea of going and trying to pitch this to somebody was completely foreign to me. I wouldn't have known to have done that. I didn't know that world. I was an artist.
Probably did better not doing that, though, right?
Oh, sure. Oh no. Then when we finally launched, then the VCs came a calling, and it was every week. And I knew enough that again, what I didn't know scared me. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to sit in a room with these MBAs and have a logical conversation. They're going to ask me about the financials, and I'm going to be humming. So there was a lot of fear.
EBITDA.
Yeah, EBITDA what? So I always said no, thank you, because I was just that audacious. As Steve too, we were together in this. That we just, again, we were betting on ourselves. We believed in ourselves. We believed in the concept. And we didn't, frankly, we didn't want to divvy up the pie. We didn't want to give it up, because I think there just came a point we thought this is going to be really big someday, because that's the way I thought. I'm just a big dreamer, and I wasn't going to do something unless I believed it was going to be big. And so, and I knew I didn't want to give up autonomy. I was an entrepreneur, and I became an entrepreneur because I did not want to be accountable to anybody. I wanted to be the boss. My customers were the extent of who was going to tell me what's working and what's not. But beyond that, I wanted to keep my autonomy. And it was, so with just a few $1,000s between us was all the seed capital it took. And off it went. It doesn't always go that way. But the thing that I did learn through the process, Jason, is I was one of those people that if things didn't happen fast, I didn't always have the wherewithal to stick with it. I was not somebody who was going to sit down and practice an instrument for long periods of time, or I was going to practice a sport for a long period of time. Again, the ADHD is I blame because I was just it's hard for me to focus. I had 1,000 different things going on at the same time. So I had to learn to allow the process to play out and to go with the flow. And through that, Steve and I we came up with slow and steady wins the race. The cream rises to the top. The best is yet to come. It was just be patient, keep doing the work, and trust the process. And my golly, it worked. It worked
Yeah,
because
no, fabulously, it seems like, yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of, we've always grown. We've always grown. We've always been profitable. We've never had any debt. We've never taken on any. And I am one who, like, I love the icing on the cake. That's my favorite part of the cake. I'll eat the cake part first, and I'll save the icing for big globs of it at the end. It's my favorite part. So I'm willing to forego, and now I've learned I'm willing to forego and put off for the reward later. And I can tell you that we've had our best year ever. We've had our best, like, let's call it the best 10 months ever, just working backwards. 2025 was explosive, and we are experiencing now, 20 plus years in, hockey stick growth.
Wow. Wow.
It's an
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
amazing phenomena, and we've just figured out some new things where, some of it's AI related, some of it's needing to adjust because, as I mentioned before, we have very strong SEO, and we still come up at the top, but not as many people are using that form to find what they're looking for anymore. It's now it's Siri this, it's AI that, and we're coming in
whatever.
chat,
Yeah.
Grok, Claude, etc. And
Yeah.
how do we come up with that? So we've never did digital marketing in the past. Our growth has always been organic SEO and word of mouth. And what we did is this past year is we formulated a team, got a new marketing person on board, and we're doing digital marketing, and it's been phenomenal. We're killing it.
That's great. You know what? You mentioned you found out you had ADHD later on. What I'm wondering about, because you talked about if something didn't grow really fast or didn't take off, and now GigSalad, and it's one thing, entrepreneurs, if you're a young in fact, if you're a young person thinking about starting a business, this is something that you'll run into, is that when you have one customer and you go to two, that's 100% growth. When you go to four, that's 100% growth. When you go to eight, that's 100% growth. But we start to go to like 50,000, it's hard to get another 50,000.
That's right.
And so it becomes harder and harder. So there's a stymie that happens in that. Do you think your ADHD became a superpower for you in the sense that this was all new and is figuring out a problem and it was solving for? I know sometimes I've often thought that I had ADD. I don't know that I had the hyperactive, but it's to be debated. But I've always felt like that really allows me to focus. Like I can get really, really focused in on problem solving, sometimes to a detriment.
Hyperfixating, that's one of the symptoms.
Yeah.
I didn't know nothing for ADHD. I didn't know what it was until 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. My daughter got diagnosed. She was in law school. She was having some trouble testing. We knew that there was, there was some anxiety is what she had been diagnosed with, and testing anxiety, things like this. And there were some accommodations made in college, and then when she got to law school, it all fell apart, and she was searching for answers. She got screened for or diagnosed with ADHD. She's telling me about the symptoms afterwards, and I'm thinking, what? That's a thing? What? That's
You're
that's
welcome.
my life. It's been my whole life. What you're talking about. So curiosity got to me. I went and got screened myself, and sure enough, you've got it. I up until that point, I just turned 60, Jason. So I'm 57 when I get the diagnosis. A lot happens then. You're thinking, you start reflecting, contemplating, looking back. You look at, okay, how has this come into play throughout my life? Me as a young person, me as a student, me as a young professional, starting a career, young man, etc. And yeah, I look at it now because one of the first things that I heard about ADHD is they're referring to it as, it's a superpower. You will
Mm-hmm.
often find founders and CEOs that have ADHD. And I thought, okay, I can buy that. I can now see that, if I'm, the counter to hyperfixating on things, which is when it comes in really handy, is not being able to focus on any one thing. Uh, right, there's conflict there. However, there's something to be said for a person to be able to be spinning several plates at once, juggling lots of things at once, and that I could do. Right now, I can tell you I have probably 10 distinct thoughts going on in my mind, but I'm being extremely intentional and mindful about focusing on you, focusing
Right.
on the podcast, and giving you, being intent. I want to give you a great, interview. I want
Sure.
your listeners to hopefully be entertained by this and edifying, etc. But that doesn't stop. That doesn't stop the mind unless you look into And I'm drug free. I've chosen not to treat it after some trial and error. But the quick answer to it, Jason, is yes. I can look back and say I don't know that our culture would be what it is today. My learning through the process, this is pre-diagnosis, but I learned about emotional intelligence and how that is my leadership style. And that's I I'm that's just where I live, is within my emotions, and I look at everybody else around me based on emotion, like how are we relating, how are we connecting or not connecting, what's the dynamic here, etc. And I think it definitely proved to work in our particular model and within our industry, because our entire business is people. We're servicing people, we're providing the service of people, and uh, it's worked.
Sure. Now, service industries are really, I think, where everything's at right now. It's been that way for quite some time. In America, we don't make a whole lot of things, so service really does feel like figuring out how to take care of the consumer, I think, does seem to be the direction we're headed, or have been heading for quite some time. Was there any one time in building, or several times? I know, yeah, I've had the fortune of building a business and selling it and exiting, and then investing in other businesses and being along for positive, times in businesses. And I've seen some really horrible times in businesses. Um, and I guess getting to that, was there ever a time you felt like, oh, this could ruin us?
Mm. Well, yeah, we launched in seven, and if everybody recalls what was going on in seven, there was the beginning of the
Mhm.
recession, and so um, I remember reaching out to a person who was from this area who had sold a tech company and did really well, and I said, "What advice do you have for me?" He said, "Just survive. Survive this year. Um, if you can get through this year, you're probably going to be just fine." And not only did we survive, but we thrived. In
Yeah.
spite of what was going on with the economy. Uh, what I found to be, my anecdote in this area is one that I've had for years, as far as it relates to entertainment, which is during times good or bad, and especially bad, people like to lean into forms of entertainment. It goes back to the depression. People
Uh,
they want to escape. that they're going to go to a talkie, they were going to go to the juke joint, they were going to, have a drink, and they were going to sing and dance and hoot and holler like nothing else was going on. And I think that's true today. And whatever was the circumstances, we did well. We, as I said, we came out of the gate and we started to grow. And I thought, okay, we've got resilience. We're gonna, when the circumstances come at you, when life often does, I I think we're gonna make it. I think we're always gonna make it. And that happened. We got through COVID. We're an event marketplace.
Mm,
And again, we did half the business that we had done the year before during COVID year, but it
sure.
was still very big business. So
Wow.
there were still things happening around this country somehow, some way, that we survived. We did not have to let anybody go, and
Wow.
we through COVID, you know, as an
Wow.
event place. I've watched friends and colleagues and people in other businesses, venues, et cetera, that didn't make it, and so I feel I have a lot of gratitude for feeling like we've been protected in some way. Very blessed. But it's come with, I got through buying out. Me and my minority shareholder bought out our co-founder in 22. That was, that was a circumstance we had to make happen. And that we got through it. Uh, we got all you were a business owner, and
Sure.
all the challenges that people don't see. Just having a team of people, we've had as many as 35, and then through attrition and some decisions we made, we got it down to 20, and that's sort of been our sweet spot, between 20, sometimes as high as 23 or so, it just depends. But um, we we've just done well. And it's not easy, and this is where people look at you and say, they were an overnight success,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we make it look easy. But no, a lot of heartache, at times, struggle, hard work, but being patient. And this goes back to your original point about younger, whether it's a younger, whether it's this generation or it's younger people in this day and age with instantaneous gratification, and not having the wherewithal or the patience to just sort of stick with it, do
Yeah.
the work, come down. And I've, as I said, there was a long time I didn't make any money. We had, I had debt. I had debt, and it wasn't until I started in 2011, was finally able to pay off the credit card debt,
Sure.
things
Sure.
like that. Up until then, it was it was hard. It was not easy, but I also had the time of my life. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed thoroughly and wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's amazing. So was there ever a pivot? I've found too that in business, there's always a pivot. It feels like at some point, and maybe you've already said it. I mean, it could have been from your beta version and then upskilling your website. But there's always it feels like in business, there's always like kind of an inflection point where you hit a crossroad and you kind of have to pivot. You have to shift.
Mhm.
And was there any one shift that you just felt like it made the difference? And
Yes.
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, no. That was the end of my question.
Yeah. Well, what I didn't mention was, when we started conceptualizing this in '03, I wasn't aware of there being anything else out there like it. So we start to do our due diligence and research, and through that process, found a company that, in fact, I invented this business model in 1997.
Wow.
So we started to look at them, uh, look, trying to figure out what are the things they're doing right and we should be doing too. What are the things they're not doing as well as, and what can we do better? The thing, um, that entrepreneurs do. We made it that, so a couple of the decisions we made was, early on, it was pay only. So pay
Mhm.
to play, pay to be listed on the site. We decided to do a freemium model to offer a free place, because we thought, um, people don't know us, and I think a lot of times people, especially artists that are very right side of the brain thinking, don't know about, you know, business and sometimes what it takes to build a career, how to, you know, and so but to give them an opportunity to dip their toe in at no expense to see how it works and then decide, oh, we'll upgrade later. That was huge for us. And the other guys didn't do that. So our growth, we exploded. We just found people that were willing to try the free version at first, which was fantastic. We also went from being a platform that was solely entertainers, performers, and speakers, people, comedians, people that do whatever they do on a stage with a microphone kind of thing. So bands, musicians, that's what it started off as. And later we decided, you know, there's all these party planners, these event planners, they need other services too. They need caterers, as you said, you know, they might need a bartender, they might need, you know, whatever. So we added other event service providers. And so now we had photographers and we had everything that you would need on GigSalad. And that was a big one. And then later
on all those extra things that you need.
Yeah. Just looking at those opportunities. Now there's areas that we feel like, or I felt like we have opportunity to go into and to delve into, but we've stopped there. Like, I think we've created we have an amazing business. You know, what our model is pretty awesome. And I thought we could apply this to home services too. We should have a job salad. We should go and offer, you know, we should have a platform
Very
with
interesting.
painters and plumbers and this and that. And I've always had fairly conservative partners, which has been great to some extent. They've kept me in check. They kept the old ADHD because I could have 100 new ideas every day. And they're like, you know, Mark, please, stick to the core business. And I think in the end, it's paid off. We've also talked about, you know, should we go international? You know, we're across all US and Canada, but should we try to go to other, at a minimum, let's try to some other English speaking countries. Let's try the UK, let's go to Australia. And again, it's like, well, it's a whole lot of new work, and is it really worth it in the end? You know, so there's things that we've done, but yeah, to speak to pivots, we've done some, you know, navigating and sort of found the nuance of what we did, leaned into the strengths, and I think say all that to say, our model's been pretty consistent since 2009.
Well, you know what I love that you said too is that even in your pivots, there were moments that you looked outside of that, like jumping into the gigs or job salad or whatever else. And there are companies that do have those. I don't know of them that do as well as GigSalad does for entertainment. But, you know, I have seen a number of that. But what I love about what you said is that you ultimately stayed with your core. And I think that's important because sometimes I see people that maybe they're an apple farmer, you know, and it's plant apples, grow apples, sell apples, you know, but then somewhere along the line they say, but I've got this great software idea to do it all, you know, and sometimes that can really take, especially as your business gets bigger, you can really lose focus when you start working on those kind of side projects.
Yes. And take somebody like me who's at the helm that's wants to take us off focus. You know, it's like, we could do so much more. We could do this. You know, I always thought because we do this so well, we can do anything so well. I believe in our team, and I believe in the magic, and that I feel invincible. You know, it can come across a little manic sometimes. I get it. But yeah, like as I said, there's times and seasons for both, and I am grateful for the people that said, Mark, really, no new ideas right now. Like, keep it
right. So Mark, you're in this entertainment business, but you're, like you said before, you're in this customer service business, and you don't necessarily personally touch the entertainer and the consumer, but you help them engage with each other. However, there has got to be stories of that gone bad. and and what happens when you guys have to get involved?
Well, as a new consumer, Jason, nothing ever goes bad. Your party's going to go great.
I know it will. I know it will. I have full confidence, Mark.
DJ's gonna show up on time, gonna have a great attitude, everything's gonna go great.
I love how you did that. I love how you set that up. That's great because I
Short
believe it. I agree with you.
short
I'm in
short
agreement.
yeah, short of your event, has there been? Yeah, the life happens, and it happens in our industry, and the main factor, the thing to consider is how is it handled when when things go bad. And so first things first, as a marketplace, we encourage, we want you to, when a member on GigSalad gets a lead, we expect them to book that lead on the platform. And when that happens, so we want the event planner to have assurances that if you do this properly, the way the system works, then there's checks and balances, and there's ability, and we will insert ourselves into when things don't go right. We'll try to be a facilitator and a moderator in getting a resolution, right?
Mm,
Um, and that's what we stand by. We have a tremendous amount of honesty and integrity and forthrightness within our team. As I said, we have 115,000 members on GigSalad, and that's
wow.
growing daily by
Yeah.
hundreds.
Wow.
And so we can't necessarily personally vouch for every single person that's there. That's where a marketplace comes in. And when you look at reviews and ratings and look at the quality of their promo kit, et cetera, when you're communicating with them, we trust that be a well advised consumer, and be savvy, ask all the questions that you would want. People have showed up late, people have not showed up at all. Um, Later finding out circumstances, a car broke down, this or that.
Mhm.
What happens at that point? How can we
Right.
make this right? Is it too late? What can we do? And yeah, it's unfortunate. However, I will tell you, it happens a lot less than you could possibly imagine, because we're doing thousands and thousands of events every week.
Sure.
Tens of
Sure. I mean, you
thousands.
don't want the one. I usually, I used to say all the time, and we had hundreds of thousand customers, and we were a sanitation company. So residential picked up garbage every house as they go through. And I used to say our misses were probably less than, a quarter of a percent. I mean, it was nominal what we missed on a weekly basis,
It's ours
based
too.
on the calls and track as opposed to what we did correct. But that miss was important to that person.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
So you wanna always clean that up, you wanna always get it right, so I understand it, but it's how I love what you said is how you respond. You can't always get it right, and that's unfortunate. I'd love to be perfect. I'm sure you'd love to be perfect too, and you'd love everybody that's working together inside and outside your organization to be perfect, but those just don't always line up. Mark, how hard is it these days to, um how do you incentivize, certainly your members are incentivized because it's their business, right? It's their job, it's their business. They're incentivized really to do to represent themselves well. And the consumer hopefully is somebody that has integrity too and wants to treat people well. But how do you incentivize your customers internally? Your I'm sorry, not customers, but your employees internally.
I
How do you
see.
incentivize them to go? Because it can be a weird job market. Empathy runs quick. There's a lot of they don't care about me sort of attitude, and so I'm going to go to the next one. And much of that's true. So in a lot of organizations, but I know ones that are growing seem to do a great job of, I don't know, acknowledging their employees and making them felt seen. But what do you do?
It's being extremely intentional in that. uh, our culture is everything. And the cult, I've looked at, okay, what has been my part in our success? Well, I had one really great idea. Um, I partnered well. I found a good collaborator to work on it. And then together, we were best friends. We knew what kind of environment we wanted to set. Who, just asking the question, the buck stops here. I can choose my path. I can create my kingdom. And I'm going to be with people a third of my life. Who are those people? What do they look,
Right.
what's the makeup, right? And for me, it was about, I wanted people that I liked, people that I could have fun with, uh, people that could appreciated the vision of what I was hoping to create. So if they bought into it and could caught my enthusiasm and my cheerleading, um, had great attitudes, just good, like, personality, were positive and optimistic about life. These were the things we were hiring based on in the early stages. We didn't have a lot of money. We just needed to have people in seats that could answer phones and return emails and that sort of thing. And so it was really a lot of just about character and personality. And I had come from owning a business and being the agent and being the person that was doing a similar thing, where it was like, I needed to convince people, show people that I had their best interest at heart, that I was acting within honesty and integrity and truth, and that I wasn't looking to, you know, get rich off of this one thing, that I was trying to create a career based on volume. Like, if I do well on this date, they'll come back to me next year. And it was that volume game, right? And so it was a combination of quality and quantity. And that's what I taught. That's what I told the team. This is what I want. And it's not that the customer's always right, but you better always be treating them with kindness. We will be known that we are people that, well, our motto is this: peace, love, and gigs. And and I want you to live up to that, that we are
That's
a
great.
peace people, that we are loving people, that we have peace within ourselves, that we have love for ourselves, and that overflow of that is what we spread. And it becomes, it sounds a little woo-woo, but when you mean it, when you really mean it, it makes a difference. And we really mean it. And that's what I've got. And in this day and age, to have people bopping around from one place to another, just looking for greener grass and that sort of thing, I have a tremendous amount of loyalty. People don't leave GigSalad.
That's awesome.
They leave. The last person that left that left on their accord was somebody who wanted to pursue the ministry.
Wow.
And
Wow.
later in life, he wanted to go and do something else entirely. It wasn't,
Sure, sure.
I'm done with you. I'm done with this business. I don't like it. It was a
You wanted,
calling,
yeah,
you
you
know?
wanted to practice some kindness
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of the gig.
And so the people that we have are amazing. I have an amazing team. And I think that we do well by them, frankly. I think that we, very early on, it was 2008. So not long after the launch, we started thinking about, um, we need to provide health insurance if we want to find quality people.
Uh-huh.
We need to make the benefit package good, because
Mhm.
we want to get people in and we want to keep them. How do we do that? Well, we make them feel valued, and we tell them that, and we remind them the value that we're bringing to the world. And I really believe that what we do at GigSalad is we're not just connectors. We are a part of people. Your daughter is graduating high school.
Yeah,
It's a memory that you'll have the rest of your life, and she will too. And GigSalad's now a part of that.
that's right.
I do
That's
not
right.
take it lightly. I do not take that. That is, we are a
I'll
part of
send
that.
you some photos. I'll send you some photos from the party.
Please do. And that's believing that and having the team believe that makes it a lot easier to keep people. And it doesn't take a lot of convincing after that because now it's self-fulfilling prophecy. The people tell us, they send us pictures, they send us the kudos, and some of the affirmations that we've gotten has been incredible. It's just incredible, Jason.
Mark, you mentioned that peace, love, and gigs, and I love that. You grew up. It sounds like in a incredible home environment, but you learned some point that you were adopted, which
Correct.
could have created some chaos. I guess how was that handled? Because I've got an overarching question how I was going to like segue from peace, love, and gigs, but then I'm stopping it because I want to ask that question. As I was forming my question, I wanted to just say, like, how does that work in the adoption world? Did that throw you for a loop? Were you young? Were you older? How did your parents handle
Thanks
that?
for asking. It's one of my favorite subjects. I have my story is pretty special. I was born, so my mother was 19 when I was born, and my biological father I think was just maybe that age or maybe a year younger even.
Okay.
And my biological mother didn't tell anybody about the pregnancy until her 8th month. She was able to keep it hidden from her parents. And and so at that point, I mean, at any point, she could have done anything. And I'm able to tell this story because I found her, and I know what the real story is. And the real story is a young lady, a young girl, really, did the most selfless, um, generous, kind, loving thing she could have ever done for me. She
Mm,
knew she wasn't going to be able to provide for me what she would want me to have.
right.
And so she made the choice to give me up for adoption, brought it to her parents, Catholic charities, and here's my parents, over here who uh, tried to have children,
Hmm.
miscarriages, weren't able to have children. We're good Catholic people, went to Catholic charities, and we're
Yeah.
told there's, hey, we have someone,
Wow.
and I was born March 10th, and I was home with my parents on March 30th. That was the day I came home.
Wow. Very
And we
cool.
celebrated that day every year. We'd have March was a great month. I had my birthday, and then another gift and celebration happened, celebrating the day I came home, the day they got me. And there was a book that we would read. It was about how special this little boy was because he was chosen.
Mm.
And this was what was instilled. This was what was shared to me. This is and as beautiful as that is, Jason,
Wow.
and as
Wow.
much love that was there.
I just love that chosen, and I love how they leaned into that. It's just, I mean,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
amazing. I'm just kind of getting chills by it. It's just amazing
Thank
story.
thank you. I am too. But here's the whether it was the ADHD mind or something else, I still found a way to tell another story or an additional part of that story, which was, yeah, you were chosen. However, you were given up. You were rejected. You
Mhm.
were abandoned.
Right.
That's what the little boy told himself. Nobody else. Now, I have a huge
But it still
imagination.
stuck with you. It still stuck with you, even though they pushed in on that. It still was like, yeah,
Yep.
but
Yeah, but. And that's Mark Steiner's problem. It's always the yeah, but. And that's the way I viewed myself for a long time. I looked at myself in a deficient sort of way. I wasn't enough. On and on and on and on, as beautiful as the story is, and it really is beautiful. I got everything my mother wanted from me. I have an amazing family, but it took some therapy, it took some counseling, you know, it took work to appreciate that I am enough. And I like to talk about adoption because it gives me an opportunity to say to people that aren't just adopted, because I don't believe it's exclusive to my type. There's a lot of people that don't feel like they're enough, and so
Yeah,
I
it's true.
I've worked really hard and gotten to a place where I was able to have some self love, and not give myself grace and mercy, and to get to a place where it's like, well, I did find my mother and found out that it wasn't about abandonment and it wasn't about rejection. It wasn't this kid's
How
crying too
old,
much. Oh,
how old were you when you found your mother?
I was 25.
Oh, so
I was
you
20.
started the journey young then.
I was not, yeah, I was newly married, and I had an agenda, and it was two. I was married, and I'm going to have children someday, presumably, and so that was one catalyst to go to my parents with. The other part was I met my wife in a very evangelistic church. Let's just put it that
Okay.
way. And we were
Okay.
supposed to be out there proselytizing and seeking and
Snakes,
saving the lost.
snakes or no snakes?
No snakes. No, 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 not too not charismatic, but
Yeah.
deaf on point with going finding the lost. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
unfortunately in my church, that church at the time, everybody was lost unless you were part of that church. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I needed to find my mother. The story was I need to find my biological mother and make sure I'm gonna save her. It was
Oh,
oh,
wow.
the presumption and the audacity of it all. Plus, trust me, it's I've had to live through all this. But that
That's probably a wrestle you had to have with your faith, because that can be weird. Yeah, that's interesting.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, and it is. And I got out, and I'm good and better for it.
sure, sure.
But it it was the catalyst to be able to go to my parents because I wanted their blessing first. 'Cause there'd always been curiosity where I came from. Where did I come from?
Uh-huh.
Who are they? Where are they? What are they doing? But I didn't want to ever push the issue with my parents because I didn't want them to feel like they weren't enough. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
In my
yeah.
head, it was like, well, why am I searching? Why do I even care? I
This
have my
honor
own.
that you kind of this honor to them sort of thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. But then, as I'm now gonna build my own family, make my own family, I thought they'll understand this, they'll appreciate it, and more than that, because the irony of it is that the fact that I struggled with wanting to even talk to them about it, they too are the most selfless,
Mm,
generous, loving people, and they are unconditional love. This is
wow.
you need this, Mark. Of course. I think we've already given you all of your box and files of all your stuff, but here you go again and have at it. And then as far as searches goes, mine couldn't have gone easier and better. It
Those
just all
Catholic
happened.
records, don't they?
Yeah. My case, yeah, my biological mother's maiden name was Cleary. And this was in 1991, we did this search, so there was still, the white pages, the telephone book is how you found.
I was gonna say, the internet was not in play a whole lot. I think I used to play, like, Oklahoma or something like that on the internet, or, like, the Frontier or something. Wasn't there a Frontier game that you could play on there?
That's right, that's right. Well, so I was born in Perth Amboy, the Catholic Archdiocese of
Uh-huh.
Trenton. I went to the nun. The process was you go right, tell the nuns you wanna do a search. You're adopted, you got adopted here. They say, "Write a letter. We'll do a search based on the records and information we have. If we find somebody, it will be up to, we'll let them know that there's somebody searching for them. And at that point, it's up to them to decide. They may say, not interested, and end of story. But it's up to them. And I knew that going in. They said, write a letter. I wrote the letter, and I think when they went to the records, saw Cleary, lived in this town, the first number they probably called was Brian Cleary, who is my uncle, and still lived in town. He worked for the fire department, and the phone rang, and my aunt, he was newly married himself. And so my aunt answered the phone, and they said, "Do you know Geraldine?" Gerald, you know, and, um, and that's how quickly it went. It was it all happened within 40 days. I actually fasted 40 days
Did you really?
for an answer. And on the 40th day, the day I was breaking my fast, is when we got the call.
Wow.
Yeah,
Mark, I got so many questions. I feel like I can go into like so many areas. Your
yeah.
story is actually incredible. In fact, I'm really upset with myself now that I talked business for like 50 minutes because as fascinating as your business is, your life story is incredible.
Thank you.
So what I want to ask you about is real quick, did you grow up Catholic?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then you transition from Catholicism to this, you know,
non-denominational Christian church.
non-denominational Christian church that was, I assumed it was like reformed, you know, in some sort of way,
It was a
reformed theology of some sort of way.
Church of Christ.
Church, oh, it's Church of Christ. Oh, was it ICOC? Was it International Church of Christ?
Oh, how'd you do that, Jason? Now you gave me goosebumps. Oh,
Come
dude,
on, wasn't Kip? That wasn't Kip. Whatever. Come on, like from the Boston movement and all.
how do you know all this?
Oh, man, so when I was in college in 1996, probably 95, 96, probably 96, 97, I was at Georgia State University before I transferred to the university, the great University of Georgia.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
at Georgia State University, they had a campus Bible study on there. And, you know, I grew up in church. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. And somewhere along the lines, you know, like every kid going through adolescence and finding his way at 18, 19, you know, 20 years old, you know, I got involved in doing things that I know the Lord would not have approved of.
I
And
hear you.
so, nothing crazy, but, you know, just wasn't going to church and doing things and, they had a Bible study and I leaned into it and I was always, faith has always been important to me. It's important to me today. It's still important to me today. And, they invited me to Bible study, and at some point, I remember going to Bible study, and then I had a girlfriend who is my wife now and was my girlfriend then. They took us to Bible studies, and they put us in separate rooms, and somewhere along the line, they told me that, you know, like, my mother wasn't going to heaven, you know,
Mhm,
Truett Cathy was one of my Bible study, or my Sunday school teachers back in the day and Chick-fil-A guy, and he wasn't going to heaven. I mean, we
mhm.
just had a lot of folks not going to heaven, and, that really was a deal breaker for me. Fortunately enough, you know, I hate the word discernment these days, but I guess I had enough discernment to know that, you know, my girlfriend wasn't going, not only was my girlfriend not going to heaven, I wasn't going to heaven, and we shouldn't be dating because they should choose who we should date. I mean, it was like really weird stuff happening. so I got out. It sounds like you got in.
Yeah, I was an impressionable young man.
Yeah.
I was in New York City. I had a couple life similar to you. I sort of some took some turns, and I was God and faith and church was what I grew
Yeah.
up with, and it mattered, and I felt like I had a good experience as far as that went. But then I found myself a little disillusioned with what I was experiencing at the time, and same thing happened. I got lean. They found a community of performing artists. It was called the Daytime
Yeah.
Zone, the Daytime
Yeah.
Zone in the city, and it was all our midweek service was on a Thursday afternoon,
Uh-huh.
uh, because actors and performers were, if they weren't on Broadway, they were probably waitering at night, so they couldn't go to a midweek service during the night. So that was called the Daytime Zone, and there were some really impressive people that were a part of the church. There were
Yep.
some celebrities, and that kind of drew me in, um, and this the way it was presented to me was convincing, and
Yeah.
and I went with it, you know,
Yeah.
and It wasn't entirely bad. In fact, a lot of it was good. There was community.
Sure.
And I felt like I was learning Bible in a way that I hadn't in the past. But the stuff that you said, it is so crazy, Jason, that we're having this conversation right now. Just before you got on, we got on here. I did some social media and my assistant asked me, she said, I want you to talk about 3 things that you had wrong. And the very first thing I had religion wrong. I just got done talking about this. And
there were folks that put that in a cult too, by the way. The ICOC was like classified as a cult.
absolutely. There was Expo Days done, and it was a lot of people a lot of people had a hard time with it. They left and they were so disillusioned by the experience that they've struggled with their personal relationship with God, let alone
no, there's no doubt about it. You're totally right, Mark. I mean that, I did. By the way, I was involved. I mean, I played golf with these guys. They did a great job. I mean, sometimes I think churches that can be very charismatic in that way and drawing you in. A lot of times when you mention celebrities, that is sometimes what they do is they find the quarterback. I always call it find the quarterback and get him involved, and then everybody else kind of gravitates to it. Find the good singer, find the, sometimes and you need. I'm not saying things shouldn't be attractional, so I'm not here the one saying that, but it's fascinating to think about how that worked. But I went 7 or 8 Bible studies before they finally, had this kind of come to Jesus meeting, and I thought something, I remember just thinking my mother and how she shared the gospel with me at 5 years old, and shared this. Grew up. I mean, I'm still 20 years old, so the primary person in my life at the time, female wise, was my mother. Again, now it's my wife for sure. I mean, we're 25 years married, 30 something years together, so a lot more time with her. But at that point in time, my mother, and I thought, if she's not going to heaven, nobody's going to heaven.
Right.
Nobody going to heaven.
Right.
Like, that was to me a massive deal breaker. And so, wow, it is weird. And I guess in the Northeast, you would have spread that way pretty fast because it was out of Boston. Wasn't that movement out of Boston?
Yeah, it started in Boston. You're right. Kip started it in Boston. And then there was leaders that came to New York City and started the New York City Church of Christ.
Yeah.
What I was part of was the New York City Church of Christ. And yeah, my parents are still kicking. They're 87. Mom just turned 86.
That's awesome.
And married, it'll be 68 years this year.
So awesome. So awesome.
And yet, and still, and faith is the day is long, good Catholic people, but just good people that have their own personal relationship with God. I tried to save them. I tried to save them as a young man. And this was another area where they were so gracious with me.
Oh,
and
wow.
If they were offended, they never let me know it. And they came and they would visit and they came to church every chance they had. And they loved the community. Heck, I met my wife, my ex-wife, after 27 years. So I have a family. Still consider her family. I have 2 beautiful children. My business partner was from there. I maintain a lot of relationships from that period of time, and it wasn't bad.
Well, Jesus can still work inside of really dark situations. So that's the interesting thing about faith and for me and my belief and who Jesus is. I get frustrated with a lot of it, but the one thing I've really worked hard on, and I'd say this all the time. So if you're an audience member listening, and Mark, you probably haven't heard me say this, since we're just talking for the first time, but I always tell people, if I had Christians do what they did to you, if they did it to me, and if I had that, crazy aunt at Thanksgiving say the things that she said to you, that she said it to me, I would feel the exact same way. And so I understand why people have problems with faith. And if the church had done things, I get it. I understand all of that. But when I anchor it to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, if I can just anchor it to him, then the rest of the noise can go silent. And I can really focus, because I don't believe we're at this juxtapoint of Catholics versus non-denominational or Presbyterians or conservative Christians versus liberal Christians.
Correct.
I think the question is your faith Christ-like? That's the question.
Amen.
Yeah.
You and me are brothers. That that is it. That is a summary of what I've gotten to after a long time, Jason, of explore. After I left, Allison, I left the church, the Connecticut church that we went to plant. We moved out of New York City in 1994 to plant the church in Connecticut, in and around New Haven, because of there was students going to Yale, was the catalyst.
And you got to get the smart ones too. You get the smart ones too. Yeah.
Oh, the sharp ones. You got to get the sharp ones. That's right. But we finally left in 2004. You may or may not know, but there was a letter written by one of the elders.
I read it.
I'm sure you did. It's so funny that all you ever spent was eight Bible studies, or you probably went through studies for the most part, and time came. Okay, you're going to get baptized. But that you know as much and remember as much that you do, which is
it stuck with me. It stuck with me for a long time. And the guys there, I remember talking to some of them afterwards and really sharing my concerns with them, and they weren't. They just weren't hearing it, and I got it. They were really fully indoctrinated, and I got it. And I missed, like you said, I missed the community, because I had a lot of fun. I mean, we'd play pickup soccer with these guys. I mean, we'd go golfing. I got study notes from some of them. I mean, it was just a real. They cared. So I don't want to take away that they didn't care.
They were sincere.
They were, I don't think they were insincere. You're exactly right. I think they were totally sincere. I just think that the how, the manipulation in that was the part that, like I said, it just got me. There's a lot of different factions of our faith, and I think that's also what can make it weird and beautiful at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah. What an incredible time. I mean, well, Mark, we've been on the pod for a moment, so I've really got one last question I want to ask you. And by the way, this has really been great. I'm so glad we've got this business and this adoption faith kind of story in here. And I think it's a really well-rounded life you've lived, and that's amazing. But I have one last question for you. I think you've probably answered it somewhere along the way, but if you could go back and tell your 20 to 25-year-old self anything, like maybe a practice, attitude, something that you've added to your life now along the way, if you could go back and say, this is what you should lean into the most, what would you go back and tell that 20 to 25-year-old version?
Yeah. It may sound cliche, and a shameless plug, but peace, love, and gigs is what my personal moniker is, because I've spent a lifetime trying to find it, and it really comes down to a personal peace, a personal love for ourselves, and the gig portion of that is what I believe each one of, finding your gig, finding the thing that you were meant to do that no one else can do in life, the reason that you were put on this earth, that is one's gig. And whatever it is, it could be a career. It could be to be a domestic. It could be my being a mother is my gig.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
It could be being a plumber. It could be being a founder, CEO, whatever it is in life. It's that the thing that gives you the most value and purpose, and really how you're going to give back. But it's hard to get to that place unless you first do some of that that internal work of being sure that you are bringing the most healthy version of yourself to the equation. And I was always on that path. I've always been a seeker. I've always been somebody who's wanted to do their best. I've had good intentions, but and I don't know, frankly, if I could have done any differently when I was 25, because what I know now about my brain. But what I would tell any 25-year-old is take the pressure off and find personal love for yourself. Because here's the thing. If we're going to talk God, and we have been,
Yeah.
and when they said to Jesus, what is it? What is the rule? What is the one thing we need to know? Well, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Amen. That is, I'm on
Amen.
that.
Yeah.
Then what? Love your neighbor as yourself.
That's
Like
right.
it's, if the entire Bible and all of it, all of Jesus is summarized into
Wrap it
that,
up into that. Yeah.
then I can do that. But the fact is that I see it as less of a command and less of and more of a truth. I believe we as people, as a society, we do love our neighbor as ourselves. And often, right? You see where I'm going?
I know where you're going. Yeah.
When we see somebody not being kind, not being loving, not being generous, not being hospitable,
Yep.
that's just how they love themselves. And we have to do a better job of helping each other love ourselves. And once we can do that, then the overflow of that will have a much more peaceful, kind, generous, loving society. And I thank you. Thank you. And I think here in America, there's been too much focus on success being, you said it before, like instantaneous cash, and being rich, filthy rich sometimes, is the goal. That people are going to find happiness with that, and that's not the case. It's absolutely not the case. I know success now, and I am absolutely no happier than I was when I had nothing. And in fact, when I was striving and clawing and working really hard and had nothing, is some of the fondest times of in my life, because I was working towards something. Jason, I thank you for this opportunity. This did not go anywhere close to where I thought it might. It's been full of surprises. You're doing your gig, I can tell.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to check you out, and maybe become a member. I mean, you say you got speaker services, so I do some public speaking, so I'll have to connect with you there. But Mark, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Every time I get on here, it's the world is full of incredible people. You just got to get out there and have the conversation, And so I really, really appreciate you coming on. I'm so thankful that we were able to connect, and we'll stay in touch. I'm going to send you those pictures when that pod comes out. So yeah, and to the audience, go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to stay in touch. I do want to stay. Yeah.
Well, you got my email, and I sent all my contact information, all that stuff. And so I'll just close off with this. To everyone listening, I thank you so much for leaning in here. I hope that you got something from it. I am sure you did. And so until next time,